Chosen one, listen carefully. There was a season when nothing felt right. Not completely wrong, but not peaceful either. You stayed in places that looked fine on the outside, but inside, something kept whispering, "This doesn't feel aligned anymore." You tried to ignore it. You told yourself you were overthinking. You told yourself to be grateful. You told yourself to be patient. But the discomfort didn't leave. It followed you into quiet moments, into decisions, into conversations that once felt normal. And you asked God, "Why do I feel so restless?" But heaven says this: that discomfort was not confusion, it was direction. Comfort keeps people still. Discomfort creates movement. You had stayed long enough in what was familiar, long enough in what was predictable, long enough in what once worked but no longer fit. And if everything had remained comfortable, you would have stayed. So I allowed tension. Not overwhelming pain, just enough unease to awaken awareness. Enough to make you notice what you were tolerating. Enough to make you question what you were maintaining. Enough to make you feel the gap between where you were and where you were meant to be. Discomfort is often the first language of growth. It is the signal that alignment is shifting. You thought something was wrong around you, but something was changing within you. Your standards were rising, your awareness was sharpening, your spirit was outgrowing environments that once supported you. And growth cannot stay comfortable for long. So the restlessness increased. What once felt normal began to feel heavy. What once felt acceptable began to feel draining. What once felt stable began to feel restrictive. Not because those places changed, because you did. You were expanding, and expansion creates pressure when space does not expand with it. So I allowed tension to remain, not to distress you, but to move you. Because movement rarely begins with certainty, it begins with realization. Realization that you cannot stay the same. Realization that something must shift. Realization that comfort has become limitation. That realization is awakening. And once you awaken, you cannot go back to sleep. You cannot ignore what you feel. You cannot unsee what you recognize. You cannot remain where peace is absent. So movement begins. Maybe slowly, maybe quietly, but intentionally. You start releasing what no longer fits, adjusting what no longer aligns, stepping away from what no longer supports growth. That is not instability. That is evolution. And here is the truth. The discomfort you felt was the doorway to your next level. It pushed you when comfort would have trapped you. It awakens you when routine would have numbed you. It redirected you when familiarity would have contained you. You didn't lose peace. You followed it. And what comes next will not require force, because once you move toward alignment, peace meets you there. Chosen one, stop for a moment and listen carefully. What if the discomfort you'd been trying to escape was actually the direction you'd been praying for? What if that restlessness in your spirit wasn't anxiety, but alignment trying to wake you up? And what if the reason nothing feels right anymore is because you are no longer meant to stay where you are? Stay with me, because what you're feeling right now is not random. It's guidance. Chosen one. Now we need to go deeper, because discomfort is one of the most misunderstood signals in spiritual growth. Most people treat discomfort like danger, something to escape, something to fix, something to silence. But not all discomfort is harm. Some discomfort is instruction. And the discomfort you've been feeling was not meant to stop you. It was meant to alert you. You see, when something no longer aligns with who you are becoming, your spirit recognizes it before your mind accepts it. Your mind seeks logic. Your spirit senses truth. That's why you couldn't explain the feeling clearly. Nothing dramatic happened, nothing visibly collapsed. Everything looked mostly the same, but inside, something shifted. Conversations that once energized you started draining you. Environments that once felt normal started feeling heavy. Routines that once felt stable began to feel restrictive. You tried to adjust. You tried to be patient. You tried to be grateful. You tried to convince yourself nothing was wrong, but the signal remained. Because alignment cannot be negotiated. When something no longer fits your growth, your peace withdraws from it. And peace is not just comfort, peace is confirmation. When peace leaves, awareness begins. That's what happened to you. Why the discomfort increased over time. At first, the feeling was subtle, a small hesitation, a quiet sense of misfit, a gentle inner resistance. But because you stayed, the signal intensified. This is important to understand. When we ignore early guidance, the message becomes louder, not to punish, but to ensure movement. God rarely forces sudden change. He invites gradual awareness. But when awareness is resisted, discomfort grows stronger. You began noticing things you once tolerated easily, patterns that drained your energy, expectations that felt heavy, dynamics that required constant adjustment. You weren't becoming difficult, you were becoming aware. Awareness is uncomfortable because it removes denial, and once denial disappears, movement becomes inevitable. You were outgrowing more than you realized. The discomfort was not about one situation, it was about expansion. Your thinking was expanding, your standards were expanding, your emotional capacity was expanding, but your environment remained the same size. And expansion inside a confined space always creates pressure. Think about growth physically. When a plant outgrows its container, its roots push against the edges. That pressure is not damage, it is growth demanding more room. You were that plant. Your life container had become too small for your development, so pressure formed, not to hurt you, to signal relocation. Why comfort would have been dangerous? Here is something most people never realize. Comfort is one of the greatest traps when growth is required. Comfort convinces you to stay longer than you should. Comfort disguises limitation as stability. Comfort keeps you attached to what once worked but no longer serves. If everything had remained easy, you would never have moved. If everything had stayed peaceful, you would never have questioned. If everything had felt secure, you would have remained contained. So God allowed just enough discomfort to awaken motion. Not overwhelming pain, just persistent unease. Enough to make staying harder than moving. That was mercy. The emotional battle you faced. Let's be honest about what made this season hard. It wasn't just the discomfort, it was what leaving required. Leaving familiarity, leaving predictability, leaving identity connected to certain places and roles. Movement always requires release, and release feels like loss, even when it leads to growth. You weren't just moving forward, you were letting go of who you had been in that space. That's why hesitation appeared. You weren't resisting change, you were grieving transition. That is natural. Growth often includes mourning what once fit you. But here is the truth that sustains you. What you release when moving forward was never meant to contain your future. The moment everything shifted. There came a moment, maybe quiet, maybe gradual, when the discomfort stopped feeling confusing and started feeling clear. You realized, I cannot stay here and remain aligned. That realization is powerful because once clarity arrives, indecision loses strength. You didn't suddenly feel fearless, you felt certain, and certainty moves people more than confidence ever could. So you began adjusting, maybe small steps at first, new boundaries, new priorities, new direction. Movement began, and once movement begins, momentum follows. What is happening to you now? Right now, something important is happening internally. Your sensitivity is increasing. Your discernment is sharpening.
Your tolerance for misalignment is decreasing. That is not instability. That is calibration. Your inner compass is being fine-tuned. You can now sense what drains you faster, sense what supports you quicker, sense what aligns almost immediately. That sensitivity is preparation for your next level of responsibility. Because where you are going, you cannot afford confusion. Clarity must guide you. The purpose of this entire season. This season was not about discomfort. It was about movement toward precision. You are not just changing locations, you are changing alignment. You are not just leaving what is uncomfortable, you are stepping into what fits your expansion. You are not just reacting, you are responding to divine direction. And here is what you must understand now. The discomfort did its job. It woke you up. It moved you forward. It revealed misalignment. It activated courage. And because you listened, the next phase will feel different. Less pressure, more clarity. Less resistance, more flow. Less confusion, more peace. Because movement toward alignment always feels lighter than staying in limitation. Closing declaration. Chosen one, you were never meant to stay where growth had already finished its work. The discomfort was not against you, it was guiding you. It was pointing, pressing, directing. And because you listened, now you are moving toward the space that can hold who you are becoming. The discomfort was the signal, and you followed it.